Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, sir.
All right. So if we quickly go through the things that we already discussed in first 3 weeks. So last week we covered the UX process. Uh, these topics actually, the color psychology and color theory, typography, style guides, and UX laws. Today I'm going to do the creating wireframes part, and after that we are going to do some Figma practicals as well. And then in the end, I will give you a requirement for the project that you have to submit next week, the Capstone project. So we are going to discuss about the project and you can ask any questions that you have regarding the project in the end as well. So let's start off with the creating wireframes. In the meantime, if you have any questions regarding our previous sessions, you can ask as well. All right. Wireframing in UI and UX design. A wireframe is generally a monochromatic drawing that's created in the design phase of design thinking process. It provides a blueprint of a page structure, layout, information, and functions. This in turn gives a clear idea to the stakeholders about the functioning and visual representation of application UI. So when you gather requirement in a UX design process, after you understand your users and empathize with your users, the first thing that you have to do before starting off with the visual design is to create wireframes. So by creating wireframes, you can create a blueprint of your page structure. For an example, let's say you are designing a website. You can create a page structure. These are the things that I'm going to put in my home page. And these are the things I'm going to put in my about us page, contact us page, and so on. So it will give a better idea to any stakeholder. It can be a designer or a client or even an actual end user about what they can expect after you complete the design, complete the visual design. So creating wireframe is really important. Why do UI and UX designers use wireframes? Number one is saves time. Uh, so let's say for an example, you start off with the requirement gathering and user interface and everything. You don't do the wireframes. You skip the wireframing process and directly move into visual designing process. So you might think that doing wireframes is taking time and it is uh, can avoid doing that altogether and start off with the visual design after you gather requirements. So after you start off with the visual design, you will get feedback from your end users or the stakeholders or your core team members, designers, developers, and everyone. So when you get this feedback, if you want to do the changes in your visual design, the actual final design, it will take so much of time rather than you do do these changes in wireframes itself. So always make sure to start off with the wireframes and send them to get feedback and do your changes there in the wireframes themselves. Otherwise, if you, let's say for an example, in the visual design, they are asking you to change the colors, change the iconography, change the page structure and everything. So it is taking so much of time when comparing to do those changes in the wireframes. So make sure to create wireframes before you move on to visual design. Next, help gathering feedback, UX design functional testing. So if you have completed wireframes, optimized wireframes, you can send these to get feedback from your end users as well. Maybe you can invite some of these users to your office premises and ask them to perform certain action. Let's say for in a scenario where you are going to develop a ride sharing application, you can ask these people to interact with your wireframes and try to book a taxi. And in that way, you can identify what are the things that I should improve in my design. What are the areas I should consider more? What is the user flow that I should follow to give users better user experience. So those are those things you can learn when you create wireframes and ask your users to interact with it and get their feedback. And number three is creating accurate designs. By following these wireframes, you can create an accurate design. Let's say you have wireframes for all the screens that you are going to develop. If it is a mobile application, you have a wireframe for the onboarding process where we signing up our users to our platform. And then we have a wireframe for the dashboard, and then maybe the user counts and everything. So if you have all these things in place, it is easy for you when you do the visual designing as well. So you don't have to consider much about the you don't have to think much about the page structure or the what are the things I should put in the screen. If you have a wireframe in place, you just can think about the UI, the colors that you are going to select, the typography, and you have full freedom to do your designs creatively if you have a structure or a blueprint to look after when you do the designs. There are three wireframe types. Number one is low fidelity wireframes. The second one is mid fidelity wireframes. And finally, high fidelity wireframes. So we are going to start off with the low fidelity wireframes. Low fidelity wireframes, also known as paper wireframes, which are created roughly. They do not contain detailed grids, scales or pixels, but functions, content, headings, topics are present in a raw form without an accurate structure. So when you gather a requirement, the next thing that you have to do is you have to define your users. Let's say for an example, you interview few users and you have to write down or the document your research findings in a proper way. So after you have this documentation and after you have a proper idea with about your end users, you can start off with sketching some screens. Again, I will take the example of a ride sharing application. You can sketch out all the screens. This is my onboarding process. This is how I'm going to sign up my users to the platform. So you don't have to worry about the design structure or the uh, creating much detailed wireframes in the first go. What you can do is you can quickly do sketches using paper and pencil and then move on to the next phase of the wireframes. So the second one is the okay, this is an example of a low fidelity wireframe. You can clearly see those are just pencil sketches. So this is the order, this is the user flow. The first thing is level up, and then we are going to show them badges and streak and finish screen and the complete the program. So these are the user flow, the very basic user flow that we are going to design in this particular wireframe. So the buttons, the call to action buttons and the logo and these controls for going back and forth in the onboarding process will be there. So those are the things that we have in the low fidelity wireframes. All right, next we have mid fidelity wireframes. These types of wireframes can be commonly used for communication with the stakeholders and end users. Mid-fidelity wireframes contain grid, scale, and pixel, hence they are more accurate than low-fidelity wireframes. This makes it one of the most used types in wireframes among the UI and UX designers. So let's say you want to send your wireframes to get feedback from your end users or maybe any stakeholder, the client or even team members or from the management and everyone. You can't send these sketches to them. So it is not that professional. And also you can't add more details in these pencil sketches. So in that case, we can send mid-fidelity wireframes to our stakeholders and end users. So these are some examples of mid-fidelity wireframes. You can use applications such as Pencil, Balasmic, or even Proto, or even Figma itself to create these kind of wireframes. So they have all these items pre-designed, and what you have to do is quickly drag and drop to your screen and create this kind of a wireframe. So that is easier for you as well as someone who want to follow what is happening in the scripts, and it is easier for you to get feedback on these designs as well. All right. Now we have high fidelity wireframes. Low fidelity and mid fidelity wireframes are devoid of feature images and written content. They make an appearance in high fidelity wireframes. With more concrete shape to UI components, this type of wireframe contains the complete blueprint of the design and is the most accurate and almost similar to visual design screens without much of colors. So high fidelity wireframes, you can say that it is the final structure, final hierarchy, and final design. So you can just follow these wireframes, the high fidelity wireframes, and add images to these placeholders, even this placeholder and so on. So the typography and the placement and the hierarchy is already defined in the visual design. Only thing that you have to do is put right images and maybe iconography and also the selecting good colors. So these are the examples for high fidelity wireframes. So three wireframe types: low fidelity, mid fidelity, and high fidelity. These are some tools that you can use to create wireframes. You can use Figma and even SketchUp, and this is balance. So if I go to one of these websites, we can create a project by selecting open project, create new project. You can see they are giving us templates regarding what kind of a design that we can create within the application as well. So you can create either mobile or desktop application or anything you like by using these predefined libraries. So they have elements for each and everything of these. So you can drag and drop these anywhere that you like as well. So that is one tool that you can use to create wireframes. In Figma itself also, you can create wireframes. You can create the frame for your design, and then maybe by using these elements, let's say I want to create an image right here. So I'm going to create a square or a rectangle and then place it right here. And then I'm going to put a heading text, increase the size of it. Likewise, you can convert your sketch, like these kind of sketches, to wireframes, mid fidelity wireframes and high fidelity wireframes. So let's start off with converting these to high fidelity wireframes. So I'm going to take a screenshot of this one and paste it right here. So if I want to create a mid-fidelity wireframe of this one, what I can do is the first thing I'm going to create a frame. Android small will be enough. So I'm going to start off with this first screen. So let's hide other two. All right, so this screen is the one that I'm going to create now. This is not the final visual design. I'm just trying to create a mid-fidelity wireframes. The first thing I want to do is I want to create these navigation dots. there are 5 dots there. So first one will look like this. And if it is active, I want to show it in black color. Otherwise, I'm going to give it a stroke as well in 1 pixels. I want 4 more of this. Now I have 5 uh, dots. So in order to make it a horizontal line, I'm going to make a frame selection. Let's call this navigation dots and go to auto layout and select horizontal layout. So okay, let's create without putting auto layout for the wireframes. We can do that when we do the visual design. So I'm going to select all this. Okay, I'm going to group this selection. And I don't want these to be filled because the first one is the active one. The others are just there for the navigation purpose. The second thing is to create this kind of a logo or the placeholder for our logo.
Excuse me, sir. For
Yeah,
moving
go
the
ahead.
dots, did you use any shortcut?
Yeah, you can use shortcuts. So for an example, once you create the first circle, you can quickly press on Ctrl plus D. In Figma, it will duplicate your element. Is it clear? So I'm not going to use
Yes,
shortcuts
yes,
because uh,
yeah.
you won't be able to follow up. So from now onwards, I'm not going to use shortcuts. I will use the controls from this navigation. So if you want to use shortcuts, you can see it from here and use these shortcuts when you do the design. All right, so this is the navigation, and then I'm going to create a placeholder for my image. Center line it, and that is the placeholder for the image. Let's give it a stroke. Maybe remove this thing. We can keep the fill. This is the image. And then we have two navigation icons to go back and forth between the scripts. So in order to add that, one thing you can do is you can create these by line tool in Figma like this. Then copy this. Let's put a heading as well. Some paragraph. So if you install Figma plugins to give you dummy text, you don't have to copy or some text from a website. It will automatically give you dummy text in your website. So what you can do is you can go in here and go to plugins and widgets and search for lorem ipsum, and it will give you some plugins. So what you can do is you can install one of these plugins and quickly add some content without copying and pasting from website. So it will save your time as well. We'll set the font size to maybe 14 pixels. All right. And then I have two buttons right here. The first button is to share. Increase the font size to 20 maybe. Use the same fill color as this one. Layout 30 pixels, maybe 10 pixels. This is the share button. You can center line by dragging it and look for this guideline right here, or else you can click on this position, align horizontal centers. So it will center line element to the screen. Okay, next we need the skip button. Okay, this is the layout. This is the low fidelity wireframe, and this one is the mid fidelity wireframes. So now I'm going to create the high fidelity wireframes. Most of the time when you do designs, you don't have to create the high fidelity wireframes. When you start off with the low fidelity wireframes, the sketch, then you can quickly move on to the mid fidelity and send it for to gather feedback and do your changes in low fidelity wireframes. But after you finalize, after you get final feedback from your users or from your stakeholders, you have to create high fidelity wireframes. So let's say that they don't like our button placement or something like that, and we have to do some changes. Let's say they prefer to create a layout like this on a horizontal way. So we are going to put the skip button right here and the share button right here, because we want our users to share without skipping. So most of the time when you use this application, the as we discussed last week's, let's back a little bit. Okay, these are the areas that we should focus to put our call to action buttons. So this is the natural area for left-handed people, and this is for the right-handed people, and we have to consider combined area. So we have to put all our call to action buttons down here, not somewhere around up top, because it is hard for them to stretch and click those buttons. You have to make sure to put your call to action buttons in this particular area. So we have to apply those things that we have learned in our wireframes and in our designings as well. So this is the layout that users and the stakeholders suggested. So after doing some changes, then we come up with the final design. Okay. So this is our low fidelity wireframe. So after creating the low fidelity wireframes, we can move on to the visual designing as well. Low fidelity, high fidelity wireframes. Now I'm going to convert these to visual designs. So I'm going to select Android large as my screen size. Right. So this is the visual design. First thing I want to create is I'm going to create this dot navigation. In order to do that, I'm going to create a frame. So I'm creating a frame. For this particular wireframes, I only created the shapes. You can see these all circles I created. But for the visual design, I'm going to create a frame because I want them to be responsive, as well as I want to change the colors and the placement of those as well. So in that way, I have more controls over my dot navigation. So let's rename this as dot and give it a fill color. Maybe this one, and add a border radius. I'm going to put it 100 because I need a circle, and then I need more of these. So I need 4 more. So we can do is we can go to the shortcut is Control plus D, and you can select duplicate from here. They provide duplicate in the menu. Say here, Control plus D. We have 2 dots, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 dots. Now I want them to be inside in a frame. Use a frame again. Always make sure to put a understandable or meaningful names to your design elements. It will be easier when you want to do a change, or let's say if someone else want to follow up and do some changes in your design, it will be easier for them to search for it and do the changes accordingly. Let's say you don't make any meaningful names and you just kept them as it is. So it is really hard for even for you or even someone else who is trying to make design changes in your design file. So after we put them inside a frame, I'm going to go to layout and use auto layout option. And I want them to be in a horizontal axis. So I will put that as horizontal. Auto layout for content. The gap between elements can be 8. So this is my dot navigation. So now I want it to be a component. So you can see that the active element is highlighted in a black color, whereas other elements only have the border color. So now I want to create that kind of a design for my dot navigation. So what I can do is I can quickly gather one of these dots and I want another dot. So let's say this one is the active state and this one is the default. Okay, in the active state, I want it to be in some other color. Let's say this blue color right here. And for the default state, for the active state, let's add a stroke color as well, 1 pixels, and this is the stroke color. And for the default state, I don't want any fill color, just the stroke should be in this blue. All right, now I'm going to create a component. So in order to create a component, uh, I have to select those two elements and then look for create component set. This is the dot navigation. So the first one is the active state and second one is the default state. I'm going to change property value to state. So whenever I go to my assets and look for local components, I have this dot right here. So if I want to change it to default state, it will look like this, then the active state will look like this. Now I want to add another setting for that. So whenever users click on this active state, then nothing is going to happen. But whenever users click on this inactive state, I want it to be active. So let's add that change as well. Right. Now I'm going to replace all these dot icons with my new component. So I'm going to go to my asset section and place these icons right here and delete all the other things after I create five. I don't want this now. I want it to be center line and only the first button should be active. All others should be in default state, like this. So this is our component we created for the dot navigation. And let's create the image as well. In order to create the image, I need a frame again. So I'm going to change the layout a little bit. I'm going to put my image on top and the dot navigation below that. So you can do changes to the structure or the, if you think that this design will give users better user experience, you can change the wireframe structure and create different version of it as a visual design as well. So don't be afraid to do changes and try to test them out with your core team members or the end users. So let's create another frame. Okay. Now let's add an image for that. All right, now this is our image. I want this to be a little bit larger in height, like this one. And also I'm going to increase the size of my image as well. Maybe I can put my navigation on top that, like this. Let's call this an image. The colors I have selected is not that good uh, when there's an image. So in order to avoid that, there's two things I can do. I can either change the color of my uh, dot navigation. So let's do that first. I'm going to give this white color and even this one should be white. So you can see that all the other element, all the instances of this particular component is changing. So if I don't have any component created in my design, I might have to select one by one and change the colors accordingly. So creating a component is really easy if you have many reusable components in your designs altogether. And another thing I can do to increase the readability, increase the visibility of this dot navigation is to put some background color inside this. So in the dot navigation itself, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another frame like this inside my design. All right. So let's call it a gradient. So I'm going to put a gradient to increase the visibility. Fill color.
Sir,
Yeah, go ahead.
in the mentality wireframe, we only select the one frame. Inside that, we create every component single wise. But in the high fidelity wireframe, every action we have to name the frame like that. So, am I right?
Can you repeat the question? I'm really sorry. Can you speak a little bit louder?
Okay, in the immediately wireframe, before that we only create the one frame. Inside the frame, we have the single action and elements how we paste. But in the high validity wireframe, every action we have to create the frames per button and image like that.
Yeah. So for actually in the wireframes, the low fidelity, high fidelity, or mid fidelity wireframes, we don't put any images or any colors or anything. So as I named them, this is the low fidelity wireframes, mid fidelity wireframes, and there should be another one called high fidelity wireframes, which I skipped in this design process because I don't need it right now, and it should be here. The high fidelity wireframe should be here. So it is not necessary to create a high fidelity wireframe if you have a good sounding mid fidelity wireframes. So in the high fidelity wireframes, as I mentioned in this design uh, lecture notes, so the design should be something similar to this. So the images and the colors are not there, but all the other things, all the placements, the typography and everything should be there in high fidelity wireframes. So I moved into visual design soon after I created my mid fidelity wireframes. I skipped this step to save time, and I don't need it because I have a detailed mid fidelity wireframes here. Is it clear?
Yes, sir. Another question. We
Yeah.
in the highlighted wireframe, we are using a lot of frames,
Yeah,
right?
we can use frames, the responsive frames in our designs. The only thing that it don't have when compared to visual design is images and the colors. Is it clear?
Okay. Uh,
All right, cool. Thank you. Okay, we created this one, and then we want to create a gradient in order to make this dot navigation more visible. So I'm going to add a fill color, and then inside the fill color, we are going to the gradient section. And inside the gradient, I want my gradient to be uh, vertical. Right now, this is horizontal. So my gradient should be vertical. So I'm going to change the direction of that. The first color I need is black color, and the second color also black color. Second color should be 0% in opacity. So it should look something like this. So you can see there's a blue line. All right, I'm going to change the blue color to white color. All right, so this is one way you can increase the visual visibility of whatever the element that you have put on your images. So you can clearly see that this is the dot navigation. If users want to change the slide, they can quickly click on one of these dot icons and change it easily. Okay, now this is my top area is covered, and we don't really need this arrow icons because users can quickly swipe and change the direction of their designs. And one thing you have to make sure when you do the designs, try to avoid using the same component, same thing in your design. Let's say for an example, they have control over here. They can change their slide by quickly tapping in one of these circles. And also we are giving them another control right here by clicking on this next and previous icons. So if it is really necessary, if you really need it in your design, you can put it somewhere, but otherwise you don't have to. So let's uh, put it in our design to just to demonstrate to you how to create those kind of arrows. So one thing I showed you already by using the line and line tool in Figma, this one. And now I'm going to create using a symbol. Let's say material symbols. You can install whatever the icon set that you prefer by go to search option right here and go to plugins and widgets and search for whatever the icon set, material symbols, line icons, or ant icon symbols, or anything, and it will be uh, easier for you to add those icons in your designs. Otherwise, you have to go to Google and search for next, whatever the icon, and download this SVG file and paste it here and change the colors and everything, which is time consuming, but this is the easiest way. Okay, let's look for next button. Next arrow is right here, so I'm going to use that. And I need the previous one as well, back. So I'm going to use this one. All right. So I'm going to place the next one here. Change the color to white color. The back is also right here. Change it to white color. So now this is how my design looks like. So I have covered the dot navigation, the image, as well as these two arrow icons to go back and go forward in the design. So the next thing is I have to select the typography for my design. So the typography also, so when considering this application, I know that this is a travel experience. So the something related to travel uh, theme. So I need to select a typography that matches my design and my end users as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a typeface. I already told you a tool that you can select typefaces typography, which is Google Fonts. So you can go to Google Fonts, or even you can see Google Fonts in your Figma design file itself. So I'm going to select one font that matches my design. Sans serif, and maybe display font. Okay, this font for my headings, DM serif. Font size can be, say, 32. Center line, place it right here. Then I need this kind of a paragraph. So I'm going to create new paragraph. Let's change the font to Poppins or something. That should also center. All right, now this is my design. To remove one or two. Okay, one thing that you can do is when you add text content, if you feel that the text content is much longer and you want to reduce the size of the text content, you can drag this text container and place it where you want. And there's an option called clip content right here. So the clip content should be switched off. I'm going to find it. One thing is you can put it inside a frame. Let's say in typography, and there's a clip content option right here. You can switch that clip content switch on in order to avoid overflowing from your design. That is one way of doing that. There's another way. Let me quickly undo what I did. That now I don't have any frames. Now I'm going to use typography tools in Figma to do the same thing. Go inside the typography and we have option called truncate text right here. So you switch this one on and it will truncate the text that you have. So it will take this shape of the element that you have your text in, like this rectangle, and it won't show the other text, the overflowing text, and it will add this three dots in the end to show the user that there's more content in this particular frame. So I'm going to use that as my design. Let's keep it like this. Okay, now next thing I have to do is I have to use this, create these buttons. So button creation also I have to create components because buttons can be used. These are reusable elements that I'm going to create. So if I create a component, I can use them anywhere in my design. So the first thing, in order to create a button, we did this already. The first thing is to type the text that you want. I'm going to type share. One should be this one, DM serif display. And the font size, I can increase it to 20. All right. Now I'm going to create a frame for my button and name it as a button. Let's add a fill color. I'm going to change the fill color later as well. So let's say this is my fill color. I want to make sure it is a auto layout because I want it to change. I want to change the content inside it, and it should work as a responsive button. So add auto layout the button, and I want to give it a padding of 30. And this one, the horizontal padding should be, let's say, 5. And I want some border radius as well. So the corner radius, I can put 50 or maybe 5. All right. We already learned how to create gradients in the classroom. So I'm going to use a gradient background for this one. Let's go to TripAdvisor and see how their call to action buttons looks like. They only have this one, the black color one. Okay, the first color I want is this green color. Second color can be this green color. So this is my share button. And then I have a skip button also. So in order to create the skip button, I'm going to name this as primary. Primary button, because that is my main button, and this one is secondary. And I don't have any background color in that particular button, but only the strokes will be there. So I'm going to remove this background color and add a stroke to it in the same color, same green color I have selected right here. Let's add a stroke to this button as well in the same color. So these are my two buttons I'm going to use. But these two buttons should also have different states. So when users hovering over button, it should change the color or change the background color to some different shade. So let's create that effect. So when users hovering over it, I want it to change to this color. First color is a little dark. Second color, okay, this color. And the inactive button, inactive default, inactive color is 50% of the normal default button. Now I want to do the same thing for my secondary button. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this and remove the fill inside. Give me 1 minute. All right, so remove the fill even for this one. So when mouse over, I want this default button to change to something similar. Let's say if you want to copy properties, let's say you want this button to be similar to this one. So what you can do is you can go to the button that you want your style to be and side copy paste as select copy properties. So this is the shortcut for that, copy properties. And go to your destination button and click again, copy and paste as paste properties. So this button will look similar to this default button right here. All right. Now let's create a component set with this particular buttons. Create component set, default button. So it has three different states. This is inactive, this is default, this is hover. State. And create another component for this secondary button. So we have to go in here and create component set. Then name this as secondary, and this one should be primary. State. This is the inactive and this is default. This is hover. And for the secondary buttons also, this is inactive, this is default, and this is when mouse hovering over it. Okay, now we have button component sets designed as well. So previously we added a transition for this dot icon. Now we have to do the same thing for our buttons as well. So when users hovering over this particular button, while hovering, I want it to change to this particular instance. Change to hover animation instant. You can change the animation to whatever you like, but you have to make sure you check your animations. Otherwise, it won't look that nice if you uh, haven't had a chance to check your animations and make sure it match your designs as well. So I'm going to leave it as instant. And even here, when users move their mouse over this particular share button, I want it change the state to this particular hover state. So that part is also done. Now let's head back to our design tab and add this button in here. Go to assets and go to prime, select the primary button and paste it here and change its state to default. And next, select the share button, default. You can see that this button is not visible. So we may have to change the font color of this particular button as well. So I'm going to change the color of it to this green color and even this one to the same green color. All right. So these are the two buttons we have. Let's change the content of this one. We have to swap the button placements. This one should be skip and share. Let's put these call to action buttons inside the frame. Name it as CTA. Center. All right, this is how it will look like in visual design. So you start off with this kind of a pencil and paper sketch and created the low fidelity wireframe by using pencils and paper. And then after improving it a little bit, we created a mid fidelity wireframes where we can present it to our end users or the stakeholders and get the feedback. And after you get the feedback from your users, let's say this was our initial design, and users prefer to have image like this. This is our high fidelity wireframes. So we change the structure of our design based on the user feedback we have gathered to our mid fidelity wireframes. And finally, we created this kind of a visual design to represent the high fidelity wireframes with that we already created. In creation of the visual design, we created these components, the reusable components for the elements that we need in our design more than replacing one type. For an example, the dot icon, we might need it in next screen as well for the onboarding process. So if I show you this example, so we might need it in this second screen and also the third screen. So we can use this reusable component to create next design, next screen as well. So if I give you an example, if you wanted to create next screen, what we can do is make this one is step 1, this one is step 2. In the step 2, we don't need this button to be active. So I'm going to make it default. This one should be active. Let's rename it as active. And let's gather some image from here. This one. And the text should be on fire. And the third option, this one. And my third button to be active. Likewise, we can create all 5 screens in my design. So in order to make it a clickable prototype, what we have to do is select the first element where you want your flow to start and head to this prototype section and click on this flow starting point. And then we can rename it to whatever the name that you like. I'm going to leave it as flow 1 and click on this play button right here. So it will open up this kind of a device that you have selected. Okay, let's change the prototype settings. So I have created Android large, this one, and play it. So it will look like this. Skip button and everything is there. So in order to make this move, make it interactive, what we can do is we can go to prototype section. If users click on this button in this particular screen, nothing will happen. But if they click this second button, they can go to this particular screen and we can create smart animate just to see how it will look like. And the third option, third button, will take them to this particular page. And same thing applies here. The first, if they click on first dot icon, it will take them to the very first page. And the third icon will take them to the third page. Nothing will happen if they click on the same page. And even for the third screen, if they click on the first one, it will take them to the very first screen. And if they click on the second icon, it will take them to the second screen. So if they click on skip button, we can quickly get them to the final screen right here. So let's play the prototype again and see how it will look like. So if they click on this, you can see now it's changing the design based on the the button that users clicked. So you can apply the same thing to these other 2 buttons as well. Is it clear? Do you have any questions regarding what I did in the prototype and the wireframes?
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
Basically, on the wireframe, you made the see early you had share button on both ends, but to put skip the word, you made the change on visual design one.
Yeah.
Should in do we have to? I mean, are we supposed to make that change on a component or? Like the skip word, if we want, do we have to make the change on the component, or it can be done on the visual design?
Yeah, it can actually be done in the visual design. So what you can do is put you can create your components and put some placeholder text right here. Let's say I'm going to put button text or something like that. So you can leave it in a component state, and whenever you need to do a component with a different button text, you can do that change in your visual design, which
Right,
means
right.
in the screen itself. Is it clear?
Yeah, got it.
Okay. Any more questions? All right, let's move on with the visual design for the wireframe tools. All right, now we talked about the wireframes, and you know that a wireframe creation is really important as UX designers in order to gather feedback or in order to make your design process faster. And even when you get feedback to your wireframes, it is easier for you to do changes in the wireframes rather than doing changes in your final visual design. So it will save time, and also it will be really easier as designers for yourselves. Okay, let's move on to the splash screen. Splash screen. I think most of you already interacted in each and every application that we are using nowadays have a splash screen. It has a visual aesthetic, visual appeal, as well as in technical wise, it have some advantages as well. The splash screen was born out of a requirement for the apps to spend a few seconds setting up before the user can get moving. Keep it simple with a short, elegant animation to present your application. Always remember the 3-second rule. And if you go over, show a loading indicator. So the splash screen is actually came to existence because most of these application have to make some requests to the server before loading content in your mobile application or the website or whatever. So if let's say for an example, we don't have a splash screen and we are directly showing up the content in our website. So most of the time it will give a wide screen for our users, which is not a good user experience. They might think that website might have broken, or they are not expecting to see that kind of a layout in the first scope. So in a splash screen, what we can do is we can take few seconds to make all these necessary requests and show the information to the user in a structured way. So all the fonts that we are using in our design can be loaded during this few seconds, and also all the images, all the server requests will be made, and client device will gather all this information and show them the final version, show them the updated version of the design to uh, when they sign up or when they go to dashboard screen or whatever. So you have to make sure to keep it simple, elegant animation to present your application. So if you are already have a branding guideline or logo or anything, you have to make sure you use this logo in its simplest form and make sure to keep it simple and short as well. And next thing is always have to make sure this 3-second rule. So if your website or a mobile application taking more than 3 seconds to load the server request or anything, you have to make sure you inform your users as well. So when informing your users, there are some methods that you can use. You can give them a progress bar where you show the progress from 0% to 100%, or even some kind of visual representation. Uh, Something that you can tell your users there's something happening in the background and they have to wait for a few seconds. But ideally, it should be less than 3 seconds because most of the users don't like to wait much longer than 3 seconds. Load the absolute minimum data from the server, but making sure you have all the information needed to show the next screen immediately. So as I mentioned, when you showing you a splash screen, the next screen that, let's say for an example, ride sharing application, When you're showing up the splash screen, the next screen should be fully loaded. The next screen can be where you can type and address the destination that you have to go and the selection of the writing method or whatever. So those information should be loaded and should be there when users go past this 3 seconds, the splash screen. Integrate errors into your splash screen to avoid ugly pop-ups. So when you use ride sharing application or something that their basic function, the main function is the Google Map or the location service. If the location service is not switched on, most of these ride sharing application, for an example, Pick or Uber, will give you a notification call. You have to switch on your location service in order to use the application. So if you don't check whether users switched on their location service or not in the beginning, it can lead to some unnecessary errors. So users will see if they are inside the application, they can see so many errors because of this particular issue. So it is a good practice to make sure to check if the location service is switched on, if they have a internet connection and everything before you load the first whole application in the splash screen itself. Take this opportunity to ensure your users are running an up-to-date version of the application, and if they aren't, direct them to the stores to update. So most of the banking applications, whenever you try to load the application, if they have a new security patch, if they have new update, UI update or bug fix or something like that, they will ask you to update the application for enhanced security or uh, some bug fixes was already done. So they prompt you to update your application by uh, taking you to the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store application, and you can update your application directly from there. These are some examples. Uber kept it simple, but with a very nice animation to immerse you in the app experience. For continually changing content, it may be better to load images after the splash screen has completed. And next one, Shazam integrates their logo into the main interface seamlessly. And another thing that tech companies and most of the websites and even mobile applications using nowadays is called lazy loading. Lazy loading is something like this. Let's say Facebook. So I think you have already interacted with this kind of a design. Before they load the website fully, they will, if you have a bad connection, if you don't have fast internet connection, they show this kind of animation where they try to load all the elements, but the placements and everything in a skeleton will be there, and they are showing this kind of a layout before they load everything. So this is widely used in the industry nowadays as well, and in Figma or the even React.js, Angular, and any front-end framework code also supporting this kind of layout. So you can implement this kind of layout in your designs as well. All right. This application, the X-Confession application, shows errors and update requires directly in the splash screen to avoid pop-ups. So they are showing you that if the internet connection is not good, they are showing you this kind of a notification. And the application is not up to date, they are showing that you have to update the application in order to move forward. This kind of application, the HQ and any content-rich applications, they need some time to load the application in the beginning. So they can't load everything in 3 seconds. So in that case, what they do is they show the animation or the progress bar to show their users that something is happening in the background, that they are loading your application in the background. All right, so that is about the splash screens. So in order to, if we want to create a splash screen for our application in Figma, what we can do is I'm going to create a new screen right here and delete all of this maybe. And let's say this is our logo of the application. Let's try to find something. So maybe this one. Place it right here. Change the size to 48 by 48. I want it to be center line horizontally and vertically, and change the color to this green color. All right, now this should be the first screen of our design. So I want to move the flow starting point to this particular place. So after some time, it should load the first screen. So in order to do that, go to the first one. And after delay, select after delay. Let's give it a value 1000 milliseconds. Smart animate destination bar. So if I reload this screen, you can see the splash screen is displaying for 1000 milliseconds, and then our main page is displayed like this. So you can apply the same thing when you do designs in Figma. So if you select something else, not after delay, let's say, there are so many options in here. Tab means when you click on a button. On drag means when you drag your button or drag your screen. It is good for slideshow or something like that. While hovering means when you hovering over some elements button, or we used it already in our buttons. While pressing means when you when you keep pressing on one of these buttons, it will happen. Key gamepad, you can manually configure key or a gamepad in your keyboard, or even a gamepad you already connected. When mouse center, mouse name, those options are there. So I used after delay for my splash screen. So after 1000 milliseconds, the splash screen will go away, and the dashboard or the whatever the content I have in my screen will show up like this. All right. Now these are some top reasons people uninstall application. So, number one is not in use. Uh, For an example, let's say during your university days, you have to scan some documents, scan some lecture notes that you already have uh, written down. So you download the application such as Adobe PDF Scanner or something like that, and you did this task and copied all the files to your computer, and you don't need this application anymore because you are not going to scan any more document. So you can delete this application. So that is the number one reason most of the users are installing application, not in use, 39.9%. Limited storage. Number two. So if you have a device with so many application and very limited storage, and you want to install a new application, and the operating system prompting and asking you to delete some of the applications before try to install this application. The number one application that you will delete is the one that taking most of the space in your device. So if you are not using it, if you rarely using this application, you will delete the application because of the limited storage that you have to deal with. Next one is excessive advertising. So if you download an application, especially a mobile gaming application or a quiz application or a learning application, if it is giving you a free service, but if it has so many excessive advertisement, if you want to continue the quiz or if you want to continuously play a mobile game, you might have to watch a few second advertisement, YouTube or whatever. So that is excessive advertising. So most of the users will delete the application if we provide them with excessive advertising. And then excessive notifications. So if your application is giving so many push-up notifications, so many email notifications, so many text notifications, most of the users won't like it. So they will delete this application because it is not a good practice for as a UX designer. It is not good practice to give your users so many notifications. So there should be a mechanism for them to control these notifications. If they don't like push notifications, they can switch it off. If they don't like you sending them emails over and over, they can unsubscribe or switch it off from the back end of the application. So that should be there when you designing an application. Confusion. So if your website, if your application in Google Play Store is telling one thing and doing something else when they download the application, it is not providing the services that it is telling that it is providing in some other Google Play Store. Let's say you're saying that you provide a free service to your users, but when they download the application, they have to pay some money to get started, or at least they have to put their credit card to get started. So that is not a good user experience. You have to tell your users what you expect from them in the beginning, and after that only they will download the application or use the application. Technical issues. So if your application is buggy, if your application don't behave in a way that users are expecting it to be, they will delete the application as well. So you have to make sure you avoid all these technical issues when you launch in the application. And there are some other reasons as well. All right, so that is all that we have to cover regarding the wireframes and also the splash screen. And we covered UX flows and color psychology and everything previous weeks as well. So let's take a 20-minute break. And after the break, let's do some Figma practicals as well. Let's meet at 9:46. Welcome back, everyone. All right. So I have already added the Capstone project requirement that you have to submit uh, in the final week to our Google Classroom. So one thing I want to mention is now, the day after tomorrow on Sunday, we don't have any sessions. So we have our final session on 1st of September. So you have to submit your assignments by 31st of August during this time. So you have more than 1 week to do your assignment and submit the assignment to this particular link I have added on Google Classroom. So let's quickly go through the project requirement that you have to submit. In the meantime, when I'm discussing it, if you have any questions, you can ask as well. So the objective of this project is the goal of this assignment is to prompt students to create a concept design for a travel experience application, focusing on user engagement and intuitive interface within a 1 week time frame. So when you travel, do you have any experience in using travel experience applications? Can you give me a few examples of travel experience applications that you already interacted with? Any hotel booking applications or activity booking applications or anything? Tarisha?
Bookings.com and Airbnb mostly.
All right, thank you. Okay, likewise, you have to take two applications for, let's say, booking.com, Airbnb, TripAdvisor, hotels.com, or anything. You have to take two applications and uh, compare them with your application as well in the competitor analysis. So let's go through the application, go through the documentation, a task description. You are a part of design team working on a revolutionary travel experience application that connects users with the personalized local experiences during their trips. Your task is to design the interface for this application, prioritizing ease of use, personalization, and engagement. So if you already interacted with one of these applications, TripAdvisor or even Booking.com, you know most of the travel destinations, most of the things that they have recommend you are based on your previous experiences. In the onboarding process, they are asking you, why are you traveling? What are your destination? Is it a hill country or is it a beach area that you prefer? I prefer going outside of the country. So they have a good idea about your requirement and they are recommending you based on what you have selected. So we call it personalization. And after you download the application, let's say you book one particular hotel in beachside or somewhere, the application itself knows that you like this kind of places. So they are continuously recommending you similar places that other users like based on your uh, requirement or based on your interests. So task description is to create a travel experience application connecting users with personalized local experiences during their trips. So these are the guidelines that you have to follow in the assignment. Number one, brainstorm and outline the key features the travel experience application should offer. Consider user personalization, discovery, booking, and engagement. Draft a concept or a user story to guide your design process. Next thing is to create low. The first part is actually the brainstorming and gather user requirements and empathize with your users. You have to consider that. What you can do is you can start off with interviewing one of your friends or co-workers or anyone who is interested in traveling, who are using this kind of application, and ask them questions about what they expect by downloading these applications. What are the good things about the applications that they are already using? What are the things that they thing that we can improve in our design in order to get them a better service when comparing to other applications. So that is the brainstorming and the empathizing process. So after the empathizing, I want you to take two applications, two competitor applications. For an example, Booking.com, Airbnb, or TripAdvisor, but only two applications, and compare. What are the good things about these applications? You can go through their Apple App Store or a Google Play Store reviews and find out why people using this application. What are the things that people prefer? What are the things that people don't like? What are the things that we can learn from this application and apply these things in the application that we are trying to launch? So that is the competitor analysis. So after interviewing one user, you don't have to interview many users because we have very limited time frame here, and I only need you to interview one user and ask them the right questions regarding the application that we are going to use. So you can refer to our previous recordings and also the slides when you create a questionnaire. You can use Google Forms or whatever the forms that you like, and also you can do one-on-one interview if you have time as well. And then the competitor analysis, at least two competitors details should be there. Next one, create low fidelity wireframes illustrating the layout and flow of the application. Focus on user interactions, information, hierarchy, and ease of navigation. So the next thing you have to do is, we learned about creating wireframes today. You can sketch out pencil and paper wireframes by referring to the information you have gathered in the first brainstorming or the research phase. So I don't want you to create a low fidelity, high fidelity, or mid fidelity, all wireframes. Start off with the low fidelity wireframes will be enough. But if you have time, you can create mid fidelity wireframes as well. So when creating low fidelity wireframes, the things that you have learned in your research phase should be there. For an example, let's say uh, in the research phase, as we mentioned in our first few sessions also, after you gather requirements and understand user expectations, we create something called user persona. So user persona creation, I don't want you to create many personas. Take one particular user and create the whole application for that particular user only. So for an example, let's say in the ride sharing application, you interview some user, or you send a questionnaire to one user, and his name is Tom, and he prefer to travel uh, in beach sites, and the travel experience, the adventure, and you can take this particular user and create your application based on this particular user only. What are the colors he like based on his personality? What will be the typefaces that he prefer based on his personality? What are the places I should suggest to this particular user? So all should be matched to one particular user persona. So the persona creation needs also should be there. So after creating the persona, so if I go from the beginning, number one, you have to brainstorm and have a proper idea about the users. You can get a proper idea about your users by carrying out user interviews or sending them a questionnaire. And after that, you have to do a competitor analysis regarding two competitors in the travel industry. And after the competitor analysis, you can create a user persona for only one user. Tell me about his background. What are the expectations they have? What are the pain points they are facing? What kind of a person he is? Uh, his personality, bit of his personality, and everything should be there in user persona. I'm sorry. And then moving on, you have to create the user flow diagram. So user flow diagram can be very simple. For an example, in the travel experience application, if I start off with, let's go to our Figma board. It don't have to be very logical or anything. You can start off by creating this kind of a screen. Say user download the application. and then he is moving on to sign up. Sign up or onboarding process. And if they sign up, say sign in, because some people might already have the application in their phone. Sign in, we are directly showing them the dashboard. They are not signed in. We are asking them to sign up on onboarding process. So after completing the onboarding process, we are directing them to dashboard. So this is the simple layout for our onboarding process for our application. Sign in. They sign in, we are going to show them the dashboard. If not, we are going to show them the sign up and onboarding process. But after signing or sign up, we can direct them to the dashboard itself. So this is the simple user flow that you have to follow when you are designing an application. So downloading application part, you can remove it altogether. So you don't have to worry about the design of that part, but the sign up or the onboarding process should be there. So I gave you an example of onboarding process today. So this is onboarding process. So this particular wireframe. So we giving them information what they can achieve by using this particular application in this onboarding process. So they can either skip it altogether or they can go into different slides one by one and read what they can achieve by using this application. So you also have to create an onboarding process. So in the end of the onboarding process, we are giving them an option to sign up or sign in using social media platforms or even email. So what you can do is you can go to websites like Dribble or Behance. Let's go to Dribble and look for onboarding process in here. You can search onboarding. It will display some onboarding process that are already implemented in different applications. So you can follow one of these, sorry, one of these designs and get some design inspirations from the one of these designs and do your designs as well. Or after that, the sign up, you should ask for their email address and the password, or you can give them an option to sign up via Google or Facebook in the screen. And after signing in, we are going to show them the dashboard. So the dashboard creation. So we are going to create a simple dashboard today after I give you instructions regarding the assignment. So that won't be an issue. So main screens that you have to create in the design are onboarding process, at least 3 screens in the onboarding process, and sign in or sign up screen, and also finally the dashboard. So at least 4 or 5 screens should be there. And in addition to that, create a splash screen animation on the splash screen as well. So if I write them down right here, number 1 is the splash screen. Number 2 can be onboarding process. Number 3, in, sign up screen. Number 4 is the dashboard. where dashboard should be displayed after they sign in or sign up to the process. Splash screen consists of only one screen. Onboarding process can go up to three. It can be more than that if you prefer. Sign in and sign up screen can be two screens, sign in and sign up separately. Dashboard can be only one screen. So it is actually 7 screens altogether with the splash screen. Without that, only 6. So these are the screens that I require you to create. All right. Use Figma or a design tool of choice to craft high fidelity designs for the app's interface. Emphasize visual appeal, consistent design language, and intuitive user interactions. So you can use application such as Figma is preferred, but you can use other applications if you are familiar with them as well. But I strongly recommend you to use Figma because it is widely used in the industry as well. And visual appeal. So you have to select your colors wisely. You have to select the colors based on your end users and their requirements. And it should match the domain that you're creating your application, the travel experience, the industry. Everything should match, like typography and everything should represent the end users of your application. Consistent design language. That means you have to create components. Components, reusable components. We already created reusable components today as well. I think you have a good idea about how to create components and how to use these reusable components in your design when you uh, come up with better design solutions to the problems users are facing. So in this example right here, I have created reusable components for these dots and also the buttons because I know I have to recreate these buttons and the uh, components, the dot components everywhere. So if there's any reusable, if you think that I have to create this particular design element again and again throughout my design, you can create a reusable components and use it everywhere. So it will increase the uniformity of your design as well, and also it will easier for you to use the design that you have already created. Otherwise you have to waste time on creating the same design every time you have to create it. All right, so moving on. Develop an interactive prototype of the application designed to showcase its functionality and user flow. Prepare a short pitch presentation outlining the app's concept, key design elements, and walkthrough of the interactive prototype. Explain how the design enhances the travel experience. So develop interactive prototype. So I actually showed you how to create a prototype today, but after this requirement documentation, I will give you some another example how you can create a prototype as well. So after you do the visual designing, I want you to create a prototype as well in order to showcase, in order to present it to the classroom when you presenting it on September 1st. All right, it should cover all areas, the outlining of the app concepts, how you get your design inspirations from, what are the things that you, let's say for an example, the supporting materials, your wireframes, or maybe user persona, and you have to walk through your design thinking process in this presentation. So I don't want you to create a PowerPoint or any presentation. If you can share your screen and show us your user flow diagram in Figma, or even your pencil and paper sketches pasted on Figma board, that will be enough. So it don't have to be a PowerPoint presentation or anything. If you can explain your design thinking process uh, by sharing your screen and showing us your Figma designs, that will be enough. Okay, these are the evaluation criteria. Number one is concept and ideation, originality of the travel experience application, concept and consideration of user needs. So you can gather more information, more uh, things that you can get your design inspiration from. Let's say for an example, if I search for the travel experience application right here, it will give you so many examples. So what you can do is you don't have to copy them all together. You can get some design inspiration from one of these designs and you do your design. So don't try to copy any of these design, because for an example, if you copy the color theme and everything, you won't learn anything. So anyone can copy these designs and do their designs, but when you get a chance to develop an application, when you get a chance to work in a company, if you only copy designs, that is not going to help you. So try to make sure to get some design inspiration from these designs regarding the colors, the visual representation, and the method that they use in the visual hierarchy or design aesthetics, and then apply those things that you have learned in your own design. So that is the way that you can learn. All right. Next thing, wireframes, clarity and logic in illustrating the app's layout and user flow. So you have to showcase your wireframes as well. So I don't want you to create mid fidelity or high fidelity wireframes if you don't have time, but at least low fidelity wireframes, your pencil and paper sketches should be there. You can take a photograph from your phone and paste it in your Figma board when you're presenting it, so I can see the see where your designs came from and how your design thinking process worked. Next one, UI design. Application of design principles. We should appeal at consistency in high fidelity designs. So after you creating wireframes, you can move on to visual or the UI design. And then you have to apply the things that you have learned in the classroom: UX design principles, UX laws, visual appeals, consistency of the design should be there. One way you can increase the consistency is by creating reusable components. If you create a reusable component, the buttons that you're using in whole website or the whole application will be similar. Otherwise, you have to create them manually every now and then. So that is not a good practice as a designer. Next one, prototype and pitch. Functionality and coherence of the interactive prototype, as well as quality and clarity of the pitch presentation. So your application should be functional. So it should have a user flow, and also it should connected with each other. So for an example, if I ask you to open the application, it should take me somewhere. When I try to interact with different design elements like this, it should take me to different pages and showcase what that page is uh, giving me or the user. So that functionality or the presentation should be there. And the clarity of the pitch presentation. So you have to make sure your application and your presentation is also clear. When I will ask some simple questions. For an example, I might ask, why did you selected this particular color theme? What is the idea behind it? So if you select green color, you can tell that this is the users that I'm targeting. So these users might like this color, and these are the things that I want to provoke by selecting this color. For an example, if you selected blue color, the message that you want to give is the security or the trustworthiness of your application, likewise. And then the assignment challenges students to apply their UI and UX skills to create an engaging scenario, focusing on designing a user-friendly travel experience application that reflects both innovative thinking and user-centered design. So I don't want you to follow that. You can get design inspirations from any of these designs, but I don't want you to uh, limit yourself to any of these design. You can try out different things. You can try out different ideas and come up with a good design that you think that users might like. So you have the full freedom to try out different designs and come up with a good design solution to um, design a travel experience application. So these are the deliverables. You have to upload, you have to paste your Figma link in our Google Classroom submission, and also submit the presentation concept and ideation wireframes. So if you don't have any PowerPoint presentation or anything, you can just put the Figma link and upload the materials such as supporting materials, wireframes, and user flows or even persona in our Google Classroom. So the deadline is 31st. And if you have any questions regarding the design, you can send me an email or send a message on WhatsApp group chat and I will answer. Any questions regarding the Capstone project?
So the deadline was 31st August, right?
Yeah, 31st August, because we don't have any class day after tomorrow, and next Sunday, week after next, is 31st. First, so
Okay.
this should be Saturday. I'm sorry, I will change it. Yeah. Any more questions? Welcome.
So your short link was locked, but I download the Figma. So I will share on that one, right? It's okay.
Yeah. So when you're sharing your design, please try to create your own design file and add the link to Google Classroom. So when you go to Google Classroom, you will have a link right here somewhere. You can submit it and you can add attachment or even add a link. You can then click the submit button and show up in the submission. Is it clear?
Okay.
Okay. How about Nitara? Any questions?
Understood everything, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Samudi?
I'm okay, sir.
All right. Tarisha, any questions?
All good, thanks.
Okay. All right. Let's do some Figma practicals. Okay, now let's say this is the design that I want to create for my uh, travel experience application. So we can start off with the sign up process, and if users sign in, we can directly show them the dashboard. Otherwise, we are asking them to sign up and then only we are showing the dashboard. Okay, now let's create some wireframes based on these designs. In wireframing, you can use Figma itself, or you can use any other tools such as Balastic that I already showed you earlier. Let's use Figma for this design because we are using Figma in the classroom. Now, one thing that you have to do is you have to select a frame. So I'm going to select this iPhone Pro Max, and these are my wireframes. Number one is the splash screen. In order to create the splash screen, I have to create a logo as well. So let's create a simple logo for our design. So when you're creating logo, make sure to use these shapes, not the frames, but shapes. So let's say this is my logo. And then we covered this in our classroom. So logo, and then I'm going to put it as design right here. So this is the splash screen. I'm not going to worry about the colors yet because this is my wireframe only. Then again, I have the onboarding process. So in the onboarding process, I don't need the logo. I will just create the process as it is now. First thing I need is an image. And then some dots. One, two, three, four. So only put three. Next. Then again some paragraph. And two call to action buttons. Skip can be here. Have next something. Put it inside a frame. First scribble. One more in two. and then green 3. And then I have 3 screens for dash onboarding process, sign in, sign up process. So now I need one for sign in. I'm going to do some of these. And let's create the paragraph. Just delete image. Going to put a logo in here. So increase the size a bit. Password can be there. We have sign up button. And then we have social media buttons as well. Let's give an option for forward password. Okay, these are things I require in my sign-in screen. I'll create the sign up. It should be there. Password should be there. You can put some terms of privacy or some kind of a text like that. So these are the screens for the splash screen, onboarding, sign in, sign out, and finally let's create the dashboard. So that is the important screen I now design. Remove all this. I'm going to keep the logo in here. Say welcome to the user's first name, Alex or something. And then it. I will show you what I'm going to design right here. I need some rectangle, and inside the rectangle there can be another image. And it can some text as well. So, some text. And then some small description about that particular place. Then a call to action button. It is first element. So I'm going to put it inside a group. There can be another one and many of those. Inside the heading to that particular line called recommendations. And then we can have another line. Promotions. So, and then finally, we need a navigation right here. So I'm going to create navigation now. This icon can be on. Second item can be explore. Third one can be profile. Alright, so these are the screens that I need to create. So I have splash screen, 3 onboarding screens, and sign up screen. Finally, this is the dashboard. All right. So after you creating these wireframes, so I skip the process. I skip the interweaving with users and also creating user personas and user flow diagrams and everything. But you have to create them. So I just want to show you how to create these designs in Figma. So that is why I started off with the wireframes. So this can be mid-fidelity wireframes. So I can't show you how to create pencil and paper wireframes right now, but you can attach them in your designs. So those low fidelity wireframes don't have to be much detailed as this. but the hierarchy and the visual representations of the data should be there in your low fidelity wireframes. So now you have a proper idea about how the website, how your application should look like by referring to these wireframes. So after creating these wireframes, the next thing you have to do is you have to create the visual design. In order to create the visual design, you have to finalize what are the colors that I'm going to select in my design. Who are our end users? What colors they might like? What typography should I select? So all these things that you should consider by things that we learn in the classroom, the color theory, color psychology, selecting typography based on user requirements. So you can apply everything that you have learned when you do the visual design. All right. So if I start off with the visual design, you can do the similar thing that I have followed here. Now, the first thing I have to do is I will drag this to somewhere else. Keep it here. And first thing is to create a mobile board. So I'm only creating designs for mobile, so I don't have to worry about web. And also make sure this Capstone project I given you, it is not a web application, it is a mobile application. So you also only have to create the mobile screens for this design. Splash screen. So I mentioned you that the first thing we have to do when we creating design is switching on layout grid. So in the layout grid, please click on this plus icon right here, and it will give you a grid. We need columns, and I need 4-column layout for my mobile design. Then margin can be 30. So all my design element should be inside this particular area. So I'm going to drag a ruler right here. So for this one, so all my design element should be inside this particular highlighted area. So anything go beyond that are not that good in user experience wise also, and it will cut out the design when you try to launch it in mobile application. So that this is the safe area for my application design. The first thing is the logo. So I'm going to use the same logo that I already created. I'm going to place it right here, and let's select some color. I want it to be yellow color. So it is going to look like this. You can select any other color. You can design your own logo as well. But this logo is the one I designed, and I'm going to use it in my design. All right. Next thing is to center this vertically and horizontally. So you can use horizontal center and vertical center buttons right here in order to make it horizontal and vertical centered. Next thing is I need a onboarding screen. Let's create the onboarding screen. So I don't need my logo right there. And then what I need is the image, these dot icons, headline, and this typography, and 2 buttons. So I showed you how to create those previously as well, but in here also I will create some of these icons again. This is the area that I'm going to put my image. I want my image to be half the size of this whole element. So 32 divided by 2. So you can do your calculations in Figma itself as well. Okay, now let's copy an image from some website. Let's go to TripAdvisor again. This is my image. Then I want to create this dot icons and also headlines. The first thing I'm going to create is the dots. Create a frame. Let's give it a size 32 by 32. I want it to be font radius to be 100. This is the active one. Let us stroke white. This is the inactive. No fill color, but only the border radius. Active, inactive. Select here and create component set. Dots. Number one is active, number two is inactive. You can change this property one to whatever the name you like. I'm going to call it state. Okay, now we can use these buttons inside our design. Go to assets. So I need this as dots. So these are the ones that I want. This right here. I only need 3 of these. And put them inside another frame. Dot. Let's call this image. Alright, now dot navigation. I want it to be auto layout like this. 8 pixel is the gap. I want it to be center lined as well. Now if I switch off this, so the layout grid, it will display like this. You can see now the dots icons I have added is are not standing out when comparing to the background. So in order to make it more stand out, more visible, what I can do is I can add a gradient like I did earlier. So I'm going to create a gradient from here until here. Fill color should be the gradient. Triple zero is black in hex code. So this one should be 0 because I want it to be looks like this. All right. This is the gradient that I'm added. It's right here. And I want this button to be active and these two to be inactive. So what I can do is select these two, shift plus select and select inactive. So these buttons right now are active and these two are inactive. And then I need a headline and also skip and next button. So this is the component that I created already. And then I need typography. Select the same font we have selected earlier, DM serif display. Select increase the font size to your heading size. I'm going to use 24. Sure, it don't go beyond this red line we already marked. And then some paragraph. Finally, the call to action buttons. The call to action buttons, I'm going to copy the buttons that we already created here. So these primary buttons and the secondary buttons.
Sir, I have a small question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just want to double check. Normally, when you download a app, won't the onboarding process happen after the sign up, like the screen?
Normally, yes, in some application, it has the onboarding process after sign up, but in this particular case, some of the application have a rough like 3 screen onboarding process in the beginning. So it will give an idea to users what they can achieve by using this application before signing up. So after that, we can give them a more detailed onboarding process. What are the features that they can use by adding tooltips and everything. But this onboarding process is happening in the very beginning. Is it clear?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. We have this button right here and the second button. Okay, let's put one button first and change the option to default. And I'm going to put this button inside another frame. I will show you why. To action. And then it auto layout. With So if I put the button without a frame right here, so I don't have control to change the size of it like this. But if I put it inside a frame, I can change the size to whatever the size I require. So right now I need it to be this size. And also the height should be changed from the component itself. So I'm not going to change it right now. So the share button or the next button should be there. This is next. And I have another button called skip. So I'm going to add that one as well. But these are the two buttons I have in my design. So let's change the button style a little bit in order to match our design. Now looks like this. Next and skip. And you can create the other screens like this one, the headline, the other headline, and everything in similar way. So now let's create this form, the sign in and sign up form. I'm only going to create one of these forms, sign in form, let's say. And the first thing I require is this logo. I'm going to put the logo in here. And next I need sign in text. I'm going to copy sign in text from the previous button. Add layout grids to this one as well. Columns. Margin is 30. Then we need this kind of a form inputs. So I want to create components for those form inputs. So let's create these two. So this is our first placeholder. I'm going to put it inside the frame. Call it a background color. And the text color can be black. Like bottom layout. This wide 5 pixels in, let's say 10 pixels in. This is the input, and we might need some border radius as 5 pixel will be enough. So input also can have different states like buttons. So it can be inactive state. When users click on it, it can have a different style. And even these by default, it can have a different style. So I'm going to first create a default screen. So I want this font color to be a little bit lighter. Like this. Give it some stroke as well. Same color as my text color. And then this is the active state. When users click on it, it will show up. So when I type something like this, the color of this one should be dark. So this is the active state. And the border color, I'm going to change this particular green color. And finally, we have inactive state. State can be 50% of this one. All right, these are the 3 states we have for our input element. So I'm going to create a component set by using those 3 as well. Name it as input. This one, let's call it state. This one is default. This one active. This one should be on. All right. Okay, let's go to our prototype. When users on tab, we know to change this. Let's put our assets right here. password. So for the password, you can create this like a circle in Figma, but I will use this one now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have two options to create sign up with Google, sign up with Facebook as well. All right, let's open this. Let's see how it will look like in the prototype. So when users click on this, it will change its color to this one. So we have to change our device prototype settings. iPhone 15. Which is the device we need. 15, 15 Pro Max. Okay. So this is 15 Pro Max. So if I click this, it will change the size of that one, look like this. So you can apply the same thing in your email sign in and sign up, and you know how to create buttons using Figma. You can apply that in sign up with Google and sign up with Facebook. And now let's create this final screen right here. So in order to do that, the first thing I'm going to do is to create a frame like this. And we can use the same thing that we created earlier. To show the welcome text. Welcome, Alex. Recommendations. And then we have to create one of these cards. Screen. So the first thing we need an image. So this is the image I'm going to create. Let's copy one of these images. Resize it. Make sure to press your shift key to maintain the same aspect ratio of the image. Right. Then we need this kind of a paragraph. I'm going to use the same typography, the different font size. Paragraph also. And finally, we have a call to action button. Call to action button we already created this one. Default. All right, now let's put all this inside a frame. Let's call it a card. So card should be auto layout. And install. And the in between things can be fill color can be white with drop shadow like this. Let's give it a border radius as well. 50. Alright. So this is my first card. So I need similar cards like for these layout and even for this layout. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this, paste them right here. I need another card, maybe another. So if I open this dash in prototype view, right now you can't scroll or do anything with it. So in order to make it scrollable, what you can do is you have to put these elements that you already created. I put this right here and go to design tab again. You can see now these cards are not inside any frame. So the first thing I have to do is select all of these cards and put them inside a frame. Go to frame selection. And let's call it scrollable because we need it to be scrollable horizontally. So if I ignore it right now, still it is the same. You can't scroll or do anything with the cards. So let's make them scrollable. You have to do is you have to go to prototype and overflow. You have to select horizontal if you need it to scroll horizontally. So now if I do this right here, so you can scroll horizontally, but it is not smooth. You can't go all the way to the right. So in order to make sure you can go all the way to the right with this particular scroll, you have to make sure to stop your design right at the edge of your board. So I'm going to drag this and stop it right at the edge of my design. So now if you try to scroll, you can scroll all the way to the right as well. So that is how you can create a slider using Figma. So you can apply the same thing in here as well. And you know how to create buttons for home, explore, and profile. So I invite you to create a footer. So you can search in here, like even in this website, they have a footer right here. So you can put an icon using Google Material Design or line icon or anything and create different states for those icons as well. So when it is active, it should be look like this. When it is inactive, it should have this grayscaled design. So you can apply these things that we have learned already and create different elements and create nice design as the presentation. So is everything clear? Do you think you can do the capstone project that I asked within 1 week? If you have any questions during the time, you can always send a message or an email using my email address mentioned in Google Classroom. Is everything clear?
Oh, yes, sir.
Now, what we are going to do is, so the next week and coming Sunday, the day after tomorrow, we don't have any sessions. So the 1st of September, we are doing our final session. So after your presentations, I will give you some tips on finding a UX design job and how you can apply and get some freelance opportunities as a UX designer. So let's meet week after next. In the meantime, if you have any questions, please ask. All right. Have a good night then. We'll meet you on 1st.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.